Hey all, I'm back. Let me catch you up on one wet down. I returned to work for my next shift. Like usual, Jordan was already in his office. I avoided eye contact as made my way to my desk. Allison sat up at the desk next to me. Before we had a chance to get settled in, the phone rang. I picked up. Greenbrier 911, what is your emergency? An out-of-breath male voice replied. Thank God, I've been trying to get a call through all morning. I'm at the top of Aquinas Peak. We're logging up here and we need help. I took notes and prepared to contact Greenbrier PD. Okay, can I get a name and nature of the emergency? Todd Shipneer. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think there's a werewolf out there. I noted the possibility of a predator. I know, it sounds crazy. Last night Bob and I were pulling the overnight shift, so no one messes with our equipment while we're gone. It must have been nearly midnight when I felt something was off. Bob was snoring away, so I got up. I had to take a leak anyways. I head outside to check on things. It was a clear night, so I didn't need a flashlight to see. I'm probably a couple hundred yards away from the trailer we sleep in when I hear the screams. As I'm running back, I can see the whole trailer rocking back and forth. It's like there's an elephant in there running around. I stopped. Something inside of me is telling me to run. With an explosion of wood and metal, Bob flies through the wall of the trailer. His bald scalp is hanging off the side of his head. I can see intestines strung across the ground behind him. The man chalked up as he continued. He wasn't dead though. He managed to get into his hands and knees, but with each cough, more of his internals would spill out onto the ground. I wanted to help. I wanted to go to him. But something came out of the camper. It was big for a wolf. Its shoulders stood too high, resembling more of a hyena than a wolf. It casually walked up to Bob. With a sick pleasure, it slowly closed its jaws against Bob's head. He screamed and kicked as it applied an ever-increasing amount of pressure. It was almost a relief to hear his skull pop. The woods were quiet again. That's when it looked up and saw me. We made direct eye contact, and I swear it smiled. I bolted for the yarder. It was fast, but I had enough of a head start. With a leap, I managed to reach the bottom rung of the ladder. I climbed as fast as I could. That's probably what saved my life. That thing had jumped and grabbed the ladder as well. I know it sounds crazy, but it started climbing up after me. Knowing my life was on the line, I climbed faster than you would possibly think. I got to the landing and had just enough time to grab the winch bar. I bashed the thing across the knuckles and then again over the head. It fell all the way to the ground and crunched as it hit the dirt. I thought that would be the end, but it got back up, circled me until daylight. All of a sudden, it froze. It seemed to be listening. Then it sprinted into the woods. I suspected it was a trap. It wasn't until I heard the screams of the morning crew a few miles down the road that I understood what had happened. I took my chance. I climbed down and retrieved my phone, and that's when I finally got through. I sent an abbreviated version to dispatch before returning to Todd. I have help on their way. It will be at least an hour before they get to your position though, so just stay put and remain calm. Believe me, miss, I won't be going anywhere. Not until a lot of guns show up. My battery's about dead though, so I'm going to hang up and try to preserve it. Filling out the report took a decent amount of time, especially when the police called back to say they couldn't find anyone at the site, but all the equipment was demolished to the point it was barely recognizable and then burned. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. There was another call waiting for me. Greenbrier 911, what's your emergency? A female answered. The voices are back, the ones coming up from the drain. They won't stop talking. I feel them digging around in my brain. Ma'am, let's take a moment to assess the situation. These voices you heard, do you recognize them? Yes, I've been hearing them all week. They're my friends now, but they keep asking me to do things I don't want to, but I might have to. I didn't like the way that she sounded. There was a disconnection from reality in her voice. I got Jordan's attention and signaled for him to start tracing the call. Ma'am, sometimes those who we think are our friends aren't very profitable to have around. If they won't respect your personal boundaries, then you need to find new friends. She was quiet for a bit. I thought maybe she was thinking about what I had just said, but then she spoke again. They don't like it when I go places, and they said you should mind your own business, Kylie. Otherwise, you might find yourself spending more time in your basement. The line clicked off. I sat there frozen, just holding the phone in my hand. Jordan was saying something, but it sounded muffled. How did she know my name? Audio suddenly came back. Jordan was yelling at me to call back. Allison was telling him to watch his tone. The phones were ringing. Snapping back to my training, I said dispatch the address and let them know there was a possible mental breakdown happening. Jordan was pissed, but was not going to call that number back. The police arrived to find a murder-suicide. This mother of two had drained the blood from both of her children into the kitchen sink, but was slitting her inner thighs and bleeding out herself. It felt like the world was spiraling into chaos. But again, there were calls waiting for me. Greenbrier 911, what is your emergency? All that came through was heavy breathing. Steady, moist breath assaulted my ear. Then a silky smooth voice drawled. Busy, aren't we? Leave me to mine. The line went dead. I chose not to redial that one either. There was a traffic call. Rhodesian Avenue was blocked by balloon animals. Not possessed or violent balloon animals, just regular balloon animals, thousands of them, to the point you couldn't see over them, and no one wanted to risk driving through them. It was a major inconvenience, but no one was hurt. I was never so glad to see the sun rise. Our shift was nearly over. It had been a constant barrage of death and violence. I must have been on autopilot because the next thing I knew, I was flopping into my couch. Exhausted but hungry, I sat there not wanting to move. Allison came up the stairs with a pair of grilled cheese sandwiches. I must have dozed off because I hadn't heard her cooking. She had also changed into shorts and a tank top without me noticing. Are you all right? Allison asked. You had kind of a rough day. You want to talk about it? I accepted the food, thankfully. Not really. I just feel like things are getting so much worse lately. Just today, we've had 4 deaths and 6 missing persons. That's a lot. Allison was quiet, wanting to change the subject. I tried asking about her personal life, but she didn't want to talk about it. I had assumed, since her parents hadn't bothered to cut their vacation short after hearing she had been kidnapped, they must be pretty shitty people. But I really didn't know anything about Allison. She was 6 years younger than me, a little taller, extremely pretty, but no boyfriend. In fact, she didn't seem to have any friends at all. She just went to work and came home and slept. A knock at the door made me jump. I sat up a little straighter. Before I could stand, though, I heard the door unlock and open. A voice downstairs called out, "Honey, I'm home." I sighed in relief. It was just Dean. "Upstairs," I yelled back. Allison looked at me in confusion. "I didn't know you had a boyfriend." Her tone was oddly accusatory. "I don't. We aren't dating. We're just friends." She didn't look convinced. "And the friend has a key?" I nodded. "Yeah, what's wrong with that? He's a good guy. We're not dating, but I enjoy spending time with him." I heard the clunk of Dean dumping his service belt onto this downstairs table. The steps creaked as he jogged up them. He stopped at the top. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had someone over. I can split." I told him that wouldn't be necessary, and introduced him to Allison, who was acting strangely cold. She excused herself to the guest room, stating she was tired. When she was gone, Dean turned more serious. So I want to talk to you about something. I was on that mental breakdown call this afternoon. I winced at the memory. Yeah, I know, pretty rough. But listen, Kay, that's the 7th call like that this week. And that's just the beginning. I heard the voice. I'm not crazy. I heard a faint whisper coming from that blood-filled drain. It knew things that it couldn't have known, that no one knows. The reason I'm here, though, is because it said they will be coming soon, coming for the girl on the phone. To be continued.